Uh, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Chapter 12, Devotional Service. Text 1. Arjuna Uvacha. Evam Satatayukta Ye Bhaktasvam Paryupasate Ye Chapyaksharam Avyaktam Tesam Ke Yoga Vittamaha.
Arjuna inquired, which are considered to be most perfect, those who are always properly engaged in your devotional service, or those who worship the impersonal Brahman, the unmanifested?
Text 2. Sri Bhagavan Uvacha Maya Manu Ye Mam Nityayukta Upasate Shraddhaya Parayopetaste Mayukta Tamamataha.
The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, those who fix their mind on my personal form and are always engaged in worshipping me with great and transcendental faith are considered by me to be the most perfect.
Ye Tvamaksharamanirdesyam Avyaktam Paryupasate Sarvatra Gamachintyam Cha Kutastham Achalam Dhruvam Sanniyamendriyagramam Sarvatra Samabuddhayah Te Prapnuvanti Mameva Sarvabhutahite Rataha.
But those who are fully worshipped, the unmanifested, that which lies beyond the perception of the senses, the all-pervading, inconceivable, unchanging, fixed, and immovable, the impersonal conception of the absolute truth by controlling the various senses and being equally disposed to everyone, such persons engaged in the welfare of all at last achieve me.
Text 5. Kaleshu adhiktaraste avyakta sakta chetasam avakta hi gatir dukham deha vadhiravapyate.
For those whose minds are attached to the unmanifested, impersonal features of the Supreme, advancement is very troublesome. To make progress in that discipline is always difficult for those who are embodied.
Text 6 and 7. Ye tu sarvani karmani mayi sanyasya matparaha ananyeva yogena mam dhyayanta upasate. तेषामहं समुद्धर्ता मृत्युसंसारसागरात् भवामि न चिरात् पार्थ मय्यावेशितचेतसाम्.
But those who worship me, giving up all their activities unto me and being devoted to me without deviation, engaged in devotional service and always meditating upon me, having fixed their mind upon me, O son of Pritha, for them I am the swift deliverer from the ocean of birth and death.
Text 8. मय्येव मन आधित्तस्व मयि बुद्धिं निवेशय निवशिष्यसि मय्येव अतः ऊर्ध्वं न संशयः.
Just fix your mind upon me, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and engage all your intelligence in me. Thus, you will live in me always, without a doubt.
Text 9. अथ चितं समाधातुं न शक्नोषि मयि स्थिरम् अभ्यासयोगेन ततो मामिच्छाप्तुं धनञ्जय.
My dear Arjuna, O winner of wealth, if you cannot fix your mind upon me, without deviation, then follow the regulative principle of Bhakti Yoga. In this way, develop a desire to attend me.
Text 10. अभ्यासे अपि असमर्थोऽसि मत्कर्म परमो भव मदर्थम् अपि कर्माणि कुर्वन् सिद्धिम् अवाप्स्यसि.
If you cannot practice the regulation of Bhakti Yoga, then just try to work for me, because by working for me, you will come to a perfect stage.
Text 11. अथैतद् अपि शक्नोषि कर्तुम् अद्योगम् आश्रितः सर्वकर्मफलत्यागं ततः कुरु यतात्मवान्.
If, however, you're unable to work in this consciousness of me, then try to act giving up all your results of your work and try to be self situated.
Text 12. श्रेयो हि ज्ञानम् अभ्यासात् ज्ञानध्यानं विशेष्यते ध्यानात् कर्म फलत्यागात् शान्ति अनन्तरम्.
If you cannot take this practice, then engage yourself in the cultivation of knowledge. Better than knowledge, however, is meditation, and better than meditation is renunciation of the fruits of action. For by such renunciation, one can attain peace of mind.
Text 13 and 14. अद्वेष्टा सर्वभूतानां मैत्रः करुण एव च निर्ममो निरहङ्कारः समदुःखसुखक्षमी सन्तुष्टः सततं योगी यतात्मा दृढनिश्चयः मयि अर्पितमनोबुद्धिर्मद्भक्तः समयप्रियः.
One who is not envious, but is a kind friend to all living entities, who does not think himself as a proprietor and is free from false ego, who is equal in both happiness and distress, who is tolerant, always satisfied, self controlled, and engaged in devotional service with determination, his mind and intelligence fixed on me. Such a devotee of mine is very dear to me.
Text 15. यस्मान्न द्विजते लोको लोकान् द्विजते च यः हर्षं भयोद्वेगैर्मुक्तो यः स च मे प्रियः.
He by whom no one is put into difficulty and who is not disturbed by anyone, who is equipoised in happiness and distress, fear and anxiety, is very dear to me.
Text 16. अनापेक्षः शुचिर्दक्ष उदासीनो गतव्यतः सर्वारम्भ परित्यागी यो मद्भक्तः स मे प्रियः.
My devotee, who is not dependent on the ordinary course of activities, who is pure, expert, without cares, free from all pains, and not striving for some result, is very dear to me.
Text 17. यो न हृष्यति न द्वेष्टि न शोचति न काङ्क्षति शुभाशुभ परित्यागी भक्तिमान् यः मे प्रियः.
One who neither rejoices or grieves, who neither laments or desire, and who renounces both auspicious and inauspicious things, such a devotee is very dear to me.
Text 18 and 19. समः शत्रौ च मित्रे च तथा मानपमानयोः शीतोष्णसुखदुःखेषु समसङ्गविवर्जितः तुल्यनिन्दास्तुतिर्मौनी सन्तुष्टो येन केनचित् अनिकेतः स्थिरं भक्तिर्मान्ये प्रियो नरः.
One who is equal to friends and enemies, who is equipoised in honor and dishonor, heat and cold, happiness and distress, fame and infamy, who is always free from contaminating association, always silent and satisfied with anything, who doesn't care for any residence, who is fixed in knowledge and who is engaged in devotional service. Such a person is very dear to me.
Text 20. ये तु धर्मामृतमिदं यथोक्तं पर्युपासते श्रद्धानां मत्परमा भक्तास्ते अतीव मे प्रियः.
Those who follow this imperishable path of devotional service and who completely engages themselves with faith, making me the supreme goal, are very, very dear to me. Thus end the Bhakti Vedanta purports of the 12th chapter of the Srimad Bhagavad Gita in matter of devotional service. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you for the lovely recitations to both Matajis. Prabhuji, are you here?
Yes, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Okay, I'll just make you host now. All right. Hare Krishna.
Okay. We're reading from Srimad Bhagavad Gita, chapter 12, entitled Devotional Service, verse number 18th and 19th. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Samashatrau cha mitrau cha tatha manapamanayoh शीतोष्ण सुख दुःखेषु समासंगा विवर्जितः समः शत्रौ च मित्रै च तथा मानापमानयोः शीतोष्ण सुख दुःखेषु समासंग विवर्जितः तुल्यनिन्दास्तुतिर्मौनी सन्तुष्टो येन केनचित् अनिकेतः स्थिरमतिर् भक्तिमान् मे प्रियो नरः तुल्यनिन्दास्तुतिर्मौनी सन्तुष्टो येन केनचित् अनिकेता स्थिरमतिर् भक्तिमान में प्रियो नरः समसत्तौ च मित्रौ च तथा मान अपमानयो शीतोष्ण सुख दुःखेषु समा संग विवर्जितः तुल्य निन्दास्तुतिर्मौनी संतुष्टो येन केनचित् अनिकेता स्थिरमतिर् भक्तिमान में प्रियो नरः. Samah equals Satru to enemy, Cha also Mitre to a friend, Cha also Tatha so. Man in honor, Apaman and dishonor, Sita in cold Ushna heat, Sukh happiness, Dukheshu and distress, Maha opposed, Sangha Vivarjitaha free from all association, Tulya equal Ninda in defamation, Istatiha and repute, Mauni silent, Santushtaha satisfied, Yena Kena Chit with anything, Aniketaha having no residence, Istira fixed, Mati determination, Bhaktiman engaged in devotion. Me to me, Priyaha dear, Naraha a man. Translation. One who is equal to friends and enemies, who is equiposed in honor and dishonor, heat and cold, happiness and distress, fame and infamy, who is always free from contaminating association, always silent and satisfied with anything, who does not care for any residence, who is fixed in knowledge and who is engaged in devotional service. Such a person is very dear to me. Purport by His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada, to Srila Prabhupada ki jai. A devotee is always free from all bad association. Sometimes one is praised and sometimes one is defamed. That is the nature of human society. But a devotee is always transcendental to artificial fame and infamy, distress or happiness. He is very patient. He does not speak of anything but the topics about Krishna. Therefore, he is called silent. Silent does not mean one should not speak. Silent means that one should not speak nonsense. One should speak only of essentials, and the most essential speech for the devotee is to speak for the sake of Supreme Lord. Silent does not mean one should not speak. Silent means that one should not speak nonsense. One should speak only of essentials, and the most essential speech for the devotee is to speak for the sake of the Supreme Lord. Devotee is happy in all conditions. Sometimes he may get very palatable food stuff, sometimes not. He is satisfied. Nor does he care for any residential facility. He may sometimes live underneath a tree, and he may sometimes live in a very palatial building. He is attracted to neither. He is called fixed because he is fixed in his determination and knowledge. We may find some repetition in the descriptions of the qualification of a devotee, but this is just to emphasize the fact that a devotee must acquire all these qualifications. Without good qualifications, one cannot be a pure devotee. Harav abhaktasya kuto mahad gunaha. One who is not devotee, who has no good qualification. One who wants to be recognized as a devotee should develop the good qualifications. Of course, he does not extraneously endeavor to acquire these qualifications, but engagement in Krishna consciousness and devotional services automatically helps him to develop them. Om Jnanam Timrindasya Jnananjana Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Sapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Utapad Kamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavam Cha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sajivam Advaitam Savadutam Parjana Sahitam Shri Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitam Shra He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrinda Baneswari Vishbhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhuvayevcha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So in this chapter, devotional service, Shri Krishna here is explaining about devotees. What are the qualities of devotees? Such an important point has been mentioned here, that devotees, they are equiposed in honor and dishonor, equal to friends and enemies, which is Samaha Sattaucha Mitraicha. They are equal to Shatraucha Mitrai. Taha Tatha Man Apamaneyo. Man is honor, Apaman is dishonor. Man Apamaneyo. Sitoshna Sukutukeshu. Even in the, just like Sitoshna, just like cold and heat. Sit, cold, Shno is heat. He treats, just like he treats cold and heat, he treats Sukh and Dukh like that, which is your happiness and distress of this material world. Sama Sangha Vivarjitaha is always free from all kinds of nonsense association. So these are wonderful qualities of, how do you come to this point? That you have no enemy, no friends. So we have to at least theoretically understand this. In case of Prahlad Maharaj, when he was chastised, not only chastised, when he was attacked, when he was tried to be murdered again and again by his own father, and when Lord Nrsimhadev appeared and he asked Prahlad, ask me one benediction, because I am before you, you must ask me a benediction. Prahlad said, my Lord, I'm very happy seeing you. I really don't want any benediction. And then Lord Nrsimhadev said, no, you must ask at least one benediction. And Prahlad Maharaj said, yes, if you are so inclined, I would want you to kindly forgive my great father. Give him liberation, award him liberation. This is the heart of a devotee. He's thinking, he never thought that his father is now enemy. Whereas the person who is diagrammatically opposite, who is always materialistic, like Prahlad's father, Hiranyakashipu, he was constantly thinking Prahlad is his enemy because Prahlad is the friend of his enemy, Lord Hari. Therefore, he is his enemy. The relationship of materialistic people are at the body level of body. Aham mameti, whatever belongs to this body and whatever is in relationship with this body is actually mine. Anybody who is going to afflict some pain to this body and the extensions of this body, my children, my relatives, my friends, my extended society, my nation, I am going to treat them as enemy. Therefore, there is a very different consciousness in which a devotee lives. A devotee has absolutely no enemy. Yudhishthira Maharaj is supposed to have absolutely no enemy. Within his heart, he never felt anybody as his enemy. Even his brother, when Duryodhana treated Draupadi in such a malicious way, still in his heart, because his heart was so kind and devoted, he did not see Duryodhana at fault at that point in time. He said, okay, this is what it is. I'll accept it as destiny. Sarv kal katam manni, everything is destined by time. So I'll just accept it. So we see that devotee's heart is always very soft and he's not relating with people on the platform of body. He's relating with people on the platform of soul, Atma. He's able to see super soul in the heart of other person, Paramatma. And he's able to see that relationship between soul and super soul, that one of servitor. So he's always in the mood of service for the other devotees, other living entities. Whether these living entities are human beings or they are animals, he's very compassionate on all of them. In those days, all the kings, they were not just responsible for their own human race, but they were also responsible for the entire human society, including all the animals, all the other living beings. Hence, they were acting in such a way that would not harm the civilization in any way. And it will prosper everybody on the platform of Dharma, Artha, Shastra, Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha, ultimately taking one to liberation. This is how a devotee would function. And it says that Sitoshna Sukha Dukkhada. So a devotee knows that the happiness and distress, they are the part of the same coin. On one side is happiness, on the other side of distress. How do you prove this? How do you prove this? This is the fact. You see, if somebody, for example, in the case of, if we go back in the pages of Bhagavatam, we see Maharaj Chitraketu. He was very distressed at some point in time. He had millions of queens, but not from one queen had he got one child. He was lamenting. He was distressed. How on earth will it be possible for me to get an heir to the throne? And hence he was worshipping and lamenting and worshipping. And then by the blessings of Maharaj Angir, he was blessed with a child in the womb of his queen. And Maharaj, when left, he said, this child will become the cause of happiness and distress. His name will be Harsha Shoka. So in this situation, we see that a saintly personality could see that there is happiness, then there is distress. And exactly what that happened. When the child was born as a prince, gradually the king became quite attentive or conscious of the queen who gave the child. And all other queens became enemies. Again, the bodily platform. They became envious, they became inimical, and they all decided that why should we suffer? It should be she who should suffer. So let's kill this child. They connivingly added some poison into the food, and the child died. As soon as the child died, Maharaj Chitraketu was distressed. He was distressed like anything. He was never distressed like this ever before. He said, "Oh, my child, I was still to enjoy you. I was still to see you growing up. I was still to see you ruling this kingdom. majestic kingdom, enjoy all the opulence, be the blue-eyed boy of your mother and father. Now that you have left, how are we going to survive? Exactly at that point in time, Narad Muni and Maharajangi comes uh, uh, into the kingdom, and they explained, Maharaj Chitraketu, look, they are lamenting for nothing. One who is born has to die for sure. And this party relationship is causing you distress now. Same thing which becomes happiness, how can the same thing cause distress? Therefore, it is part of the same coin. It flips, then you're distressed, it flips over, you're happy. Flips, you're distressed, it flips over, you're happy. So this happiness and distress keeps on going here, there. So then finally, when this boy, by mystic power of Narad Muni, was brought back to life, he asked, when his father asked that, don't you be with your father, with your mother? The child asked, which father, which mother? It has been many, many lives. I have many, many fathers, many, many mothers. Which father, mother you are? Because I am the spirit soul. I need to move on. And then they realized, oh, this is the eternal truth. And they got liberated from the ignorance and foolishness of thinking themselves to the body and their relationships, which are body to relationships, to be the source of happiness. Similarly, I recently met a very good, I made a friend who achieved a huge success recently in his business. He became a billionaire. And then at some point in time, his business failed. Within months, all the opulence that was collected in last decade went down the drain in just few months. Literally in 12 weeks, the bank took over, the buildings went away, the properties went away, all the employees left, so much of stock was left, he was declared bankrupt. So the same thing which was giving happiness, business, became the cause of distress, and to this date he's not able to get over it. How does this happen? Why it happened to me? It cannot just happen. And he's trying to rebounds, thinking that happiness, see, I'll achieve again, because that is what my rightful position is. But none of these people are able to understand that any temporary source, which is the cause of your happiness, immediately can turn into the cause of your distress. This is the problem with the material energy. It's dynamic, it is insentient, and it cannot fulfill our desires. And therefore, Krishna is saying here, Samashatraucha mitracha tatha mana apamanayo. People feel, oh, I'm respected. They feel happy. I'm respected. I met this person. He's a counselor. And I asked him, what drives you? He was very passionate. What drives you to be constantly going on the streets and knocking on the door and putting in the leaflets? And it's really noble cause that you're doing something great, but what is driving you? He said, yes, I'm respected. I've given help so many people. And when they grow, even the students and the young professionals, when they grow up, I command a lot of respect. Man apumanayo. And all of a sudden, this guy loses election. He loses his position. He's distressed. What happened? Oh, I've lost all my respect. One moment you had respect, other moment you don't have respect. Hence, you're subjected to the reactions of this world. You are acting on a platform of reactions by the material energy, which is like a mirror, reflecting anything and everything to your own consciousness. And then suddenly you become distressed, suddenly you become happy. So happiness and distress, but the achievement of the fruits of this activities in this karmic world, they are not the right source of happiness and distress. The soul, Anandamaya Bhasa, soul is eternally, it's eternally used to constant happiness, never ending, unceasing happiness. But because he is in this body, he's subjected to the rules of the body and the mind. And this mind is always looking for happiness, distress, relative happiness, relative distress. One moment I'm happy, I'm again happier more than this moment. And then so on, and then distress in the other way around. And this way, we see that his mind is constantly in happiness and distress. The waves of happiness and distress are going up and down and up and down. And material, who are living entity, is going through this. Is going through this. And the second verse it says, the devotees are always silent and satisfied with anything. Why are they so? Because they know that the source of happiness and distress is not in this material world, is not going to come from their actions. It is something internal. It is sitting inside. It is only due to connection with the Supreme Lord that one will feel loved. It is only when the dormant love in our heart will awaken for the Supreme Lord will give us true happiness. And by getting that true happiness, one doesn't look outside. He doesn't look outside anymore. He becomes fixed in knowledge. He understands his constitutional position. He understands that the source of happiness does not reside here. It's the Kalema Shashvatam. It is temporary. It is full of distress. The source of happiness is in the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord, and therefore they are always engaged in devotional service. Such a person is very dear to me. Krishna is saying, such a person is very dear to me. Bhaktiman me priyo naraha. Among the human beings, naraha, such a person who is devoted to me is very, very dear to me, because he's tolerating the happiness of this world, which is forced upon him. He's conditioned to see in that way, but still he's tolerating there. He's tolerating the fame and infame. He's tolerating the contaminated association of this world, and he remains silent and satisfied within. What is he doing? He's chanting the holy names of the Lord. He gets up in the morning, he chants his holy name, he becomes very happy and satisfied in 2 hours. Billionaires, trillionaires, those who are possessing entire planets, they also don't get this satisfaction. Just in 2 hours, just chanting by the mercy of Srila Prabhupada, all the devotees who are associated with ISKCON, they're chanting 16 rounds of Hare Krishna Mahamantra. And if they chant sincerely these 16 rounds of Hare Krishna Mahamantra, hearing every word that is coming out of this Mahamantra, completely focusing their mind on the Mahamantra, which is Krishna's holy name, appearing as incarnations in this material world in the age of Kali. If they're associating with his holy names, because the association of holy names is equivalent to association of Lord Krishna himself and Radharani herself. Therefore, by that association, the heart, the living entity's heart becomes purified. It becomes full of knowledge. It becomes enlightened. Therefore, all the senses gets eliminated. These eliminated senses do not look for the dead matter to enjoy anymore, because they are eliminated by the higher, refined consciousness, Krishna consciousness. It's 30 parts. Can develop, but not artificially, not externally, only of Krishna. Engagement in Krishna consciousness will automatically help him develop these qualities. Cheto Darpan Marjanam, Bhav Mahadavagni Nirvapa, Shriya Chandrika Vitarnam, Vidyavada Jiva. This Cheto Darpan Marjanam will happen in his heart. All these 6 anarthas of lust, anger, greed, kama, krodha, lobha, mada, moha, matsara, pride, envy, all these things will go away in due course of time. It is a slow process, but it is a sure process. Surely you're going in the right direction. Every day when you chant, you will feel that, yes, I'm going in the right direction. Something is changing within me. And with that little change inside our consciousness, what we see this world differently, because we are wearing these glasses. These glasses are transparent. We see world transparent. These glasses are green. We see this world green. These glasses are red or yellow. We see this world red or yellow. Consciousness, when it gets refined, it becomes pure. Then we see the world exactly the way it is, in the right right representation and right consciousness. You see three modes of material nature. You see influences. You see how living entity is controlled, how this anger is coming, how pride is coming, how I'm different from all of these things. Hmm? So a sadhaka, devotee, continues to practice with firm determination. His determination, Prabhupada says, is determined because he's fixed in knowledge. He understands this is the path, this is my goal. My abhidaya, my samman abhidaya prayojan is very clear. So he follows the process in due course of time. By the mercy of Guru, by the mercy of devotees, by the mercy of holy names, he's able to achieve these fine qualities. Trinadapi sanechena, karorapi sahishnama ninamanadena kirtanya sadari. So he developed this quality of humility. It's not artificial. Oh, Prabhu, it's okay. Oh, yeah, you're very humble, Prabhu. Yeah, so it's okay. No, not that. Humility is something inside. Humility means that one is thinking that I am not the doer. Prakriti kriya manani guna karmani sarvasha ahankar vimudha atma kartahamiti manyate. This is what a living entity thinks when he gets fixed in knowledge. It doesn't think otherwise. So this is the conclusion of this purport here and this verse. I'll stop speaking and I'll start reading from the book of Family Business. If there is any comment or question that may be there, then we can take as soon as I finish the reading of the book. We have to read from page number 114, Dynamic Distribution on the Streets of Europe. In 1974, Hamsaduta, GBC Secretary for Germany, announced the release of Bhagavad Gita as it is in German. Srila Prabhupada wrote to him on November 14, 1974. This further publication of books means that you go further to Krishna 6 steps more. Thank you. Overflood Europe with German books. I think that German people are at heart of Europe. And your march will be followed by Bhagwan Das in French language. Manidhar Das, a Czech devotee who joined ISKCON in Germany in 1972, remembers the atmosphere at the time. Quote, I joined on a Monday and was out the door on Tuesday to distribute books. The whole mood of the community was oriented towards going out for book distribution and Harinam. The only devotee in the temple during the day was the pujari who stayed back to care for the deities. First day I went out, I sold 250 magazines. And when I came back, everyone at the temple was really nice to me. From this, I quickly saw going out for Sankirtan was the way to please the devotees. After that, I hardly saw a temple because I went out traveling around Europe. We were always traveling and distributing books. We had dozens of devotees rolling across the country in vans, distributing all the time. Unquote. Manidhar's commitment to book distribution was unshakable, and he soon became one of the most successful distributors in the world. Manidhar recalls, quote, when I joined, it was considered impossible to distribute big books in Germany. We mostly sold record albums, but then Srila Prabhupada said the record distribution had to stop. When the first edition of Bhagavad Gita as it is came out in German, and after Srila Prabhupada stopped our distribution of record albums, we began to distribute the Gita in large quantities. Unquote. Rohini Sutadas, a Swiss devotee, soon joined forces with Manidhar, and the two became a world-famous book distributorial duo. Rohini Sutta remembers, quote, Manidhar and I were each distributing 40 big books a day. But then we discovered that we could sell more than one at a time. So we gradually increased to 60 or 70 books a day each. We would read the scores of the devotees in the United States who were also selling more and more big books. And then gradually, both Manidhar and I were able to sometimes sell as many as 100 books each in a day. When Srila Prabhupada heard about these two extraordinary book distributors, he wrote them a letter on October 10, 1976. My dear Manidhar and Rohini Sutta, Please accept my blessings. I have received a letter from Jaya Tirtha saying that you have distributed in 1 week 522 and 521 books respectively. This is very wonderful. I thank you so much. Ye Rama prapadyante tam stateh bhajami aham. Krishna becomes more and more pleased by seeing the increment of book distribution. Devotional service is absolute, but Krishna is especially pleased to see someone preaching his glories. One year, instead of coming to the annual Mayapur festival to meet Srila Prabhupada and the international devotees, Rohini Sutta and Manidhar stayed in Europe to sell more books. Srila Prabhupada praised their dedication. He even sent a pair of silver kartals to Rohini Sutta with his name engraved on them as a reward for his selling the most big books in the world that year. Mexico. Meanwhile, in Mexico, Hridayananda Das Goswami had organized a Spanish officer of the BBT. Srila Prabhupada wrote to him from Bombay on December 21, 1974. My dear Hridayananda Maharaj, please accept my blessings. I am in due receipt of your letter, dated November 27, 1974, with enclosed Spanish BTG, and have noted the contents very carefully and looked through the new Spanish BTG. This new BTG is done very nicely. The printing is very beautiful, and I thank you very much for doing such a nice job. I'm very glad to hear you have printed 100,000 copies of this magazine. Now give them to everyone. Also, I'm very happy to hear the other books will be coming out very soon. If you can finish Bhagavad Gita as it is in Spanish and show me at the Mayapur festival, that will be very sublime. Please print as many books as possible. This is my real pleasure. By printing these books of our Krishna conscious philosophy in so many different languages, we can actually inject our movement into the masses of persons all over the world, especially there in the Western countries. Australia. ISKCON Australia also rose to prominence on the World Book distribution since scene, and by 1974 was competing with ISKCON Los Angeles and the Radha Damodar TSKP for the top spot. By the fall of 1974, about a dozen Australian and New Zealand devotees were daily selling more than 20 big books each. Centers in Australia, like those in America, more than doubled their book distribution between 73 and 74. Charudas, one of the early leaders in Australia, remembers. In 73, Madhi Dwisha Swami organized a BBT party consisting of elite book distributors around Australia. My wife and I went up the Gold Coast and distributed tons of softbound Krishna books. But when Buddhimanta came to Australia, that really got things going. There was no one on the planet who could inspire like Buddhi. Extreme enthusiasm. In the Nectar instruction, Srila Prabhupada translates utsaha as enthusiasm. Word enthusiasm comes from the Greek enthous, inspired by God. In his purport, text 3, Srila Prabhupada writes, without enthusiasm, one cannot be successful even in the material world. One has to be very enthusiastic in his particular field of activity in order to become successful. A student businessman, artist, or anyone else who wants success in his line must be enthusiastic. Similarly, one has to be very enthusiastic in devotional service. Enthusiasm means action. But action for whom? The answer is one should always act for Krishna. Krishna Arthe Akhila Cheshta from Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. Buddhimanta became an emblem of this enthusiasm for the book distribution movement, inspiring devotees all over the world. Seeing Buddhimanta's extreme enthusiasm and experience, Rameshwar sent him to many communities, New York, London, Australia among them. Buddhimanta's sincerity was contagious. He became famous for his eagerness, which sometimes seemed to verge on the spiritual madness, for distributing Srila Prabhupada's books. Madhi Dusha Das explains Buddhimanta's madness upon his arrival in Australia. Quote, Buddhi was so enthusiastic about distributing books that he used to rip open book boxes with a gleam in his eyes and then place a line of books up his arm. He would go up and down the city street in dhoti with his arm full of books, stopping anyone and everyone to show them the books. Buddhi didn't mention the price of the books. He would just show them the pictures until they revealed even a little interest, and they would see, and then he would say, by the way, we take a donation to keep the printing press going. When Buddhi was packing up his book bags to venture out for the day, he would often say, we're not bringing any books back. And if a fellow devotee would question him, we're going to sell all these books in one day? Buddhi would answer, yeah, why not? Buddhimanta's teammates remember how he would breathe heavily in anticipation before getting out of the van to distribute books. When the van would finally stop at the destination, he would literally jump out and get started. He used to say, ton for the whole day is set during the first 5 minutes to better make them good. When Buddhi's team member asked how long they were supposed to stay out, he would say, until all the books are gone. Buddhimanta's example gives us a good lesson in how even one enthusiastic person can make his or her mark on the world. Srila Prabhupada had told Gopal Krishna Das, my books are sold because of the enthusiasm of my devotees. And Buddhimanta proved it. Okay, we shall stop reading here. So the next reader has to read from page 119, and the heading is The UK Awakens.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So, Hare Krishna, dear devotees. If there's any comment, anything you want to share, Jyoti Mataji, I've just sent you the picture page where we have to read on the next.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji. I'll forward it tomorrow. Thank you. And
Okay.
thank you for the wonderful class, Prabhuji. It was amazing class, as always.
Hare Krishna. Okay. If there aren't many questions or comments, we can say goodbyes. It's already 48 past. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhuvaeva cha patitanam
पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः हरे कृष्णा
Hare Krishna.
Hare
Thank you,
Krishna.
Prabhuji,
Hare
for
Krishna.
that.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank you,
Hare
Prabhuji. Hare
Krishna. Hare
Krishna.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you,
Thank you,
Prabhuji.
Prabhuji.
Hare
Thank you.
Thank you.